Hey guys, it's me, Unicorn Conspiracy. Today we're going to do a book haul. I mean, you know that I tend to frequent the thrift shops, and I tend to buy a lot of books, but only when they're cheap. I really cannot afford to spend, $18 on a book, much less, $50 on 3 books. So I go to the thrift shops and buy books there, because you can find really interesting books there. And, they're 25 cents each, so it's a huge bonus. Highly recommend it to all lovers of literature. And lovers of good deals. I've got some really good gems here, and I kind of want to talk about them, but I don't really have anyone to talk about them with. So I'm just going to talk about them to you guys. Never been one to read, Star Trek novels, but there were a few sitting there, and I was like, what the heck? I love Star Trek. I would be sick rapper.
A little bit of lot, but I don't want no iced tea in my teapot.
I love Star Trek, and I figured, why not at least give them a shot? We have a random science fiction fantasy book that I picked up, and what the heck, Stations of the Tide by Michael Swanwich. Sandwich. I also kind of got it because his name was Swanwich, and it was like a sandwich. Got a couple classics of literature. Got Henry VIII by Shakespeare, a Robert A. Heinlein book, Methuselah's Children. Very excited. When I bought this, the person checking me out was like, "Oh, this book is so good," and I was like, "Yeah." Not really, because I'm socially awkward, but I got Coraline by Neil Gaiman. Very good book. Very scary. Very beautiful. I also got an anthology by Brian Jakes. Called The Riverjack. He, of course, wrote Redwall, all 50,000 million of them. I haven't read all 50,000 million of Redwall, but I enjoy Redwall very much, so excited to read that. And because I'm an English nerd, I got The Elements of Style. My English professor raves about this book on a regular basis, recommending everyone to buy it, and I found it at the thrift store for 25 cents, and I was like, hey Macarena. I also got 13th Night, which is a continuation of 12th Night by Shakespeare, which is one of my favorite Shakespeare plays, and I remember my older sister reading this once, or maybe it was my cousin. Somebody read this a long time ago and was raving about it, and I never read it because I never get around to things, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've seen this before. I've heard it's really good. It's based on a Shakespeare play. What could go wrong? Many things could go wrong, but we're not going to worry about that until we read it. This book, it's called Beyond Wizard Wall, and I thought that was an interesting title, so I picked it up and opened to a random page and read a sentence, and I was like, oh, that looks like an interesting sentence, and I thought, I'll buy it, and why not? And then this mighty gem, I'm very excited to read it. It's called Staked. Look at that sexy cover. A stereotypical vampire guy, except he's not so stereotypical because he has memory problems and can't remember what the heck's going on. He also runs a strip club, which, is interesting. And I think there's some werewolf somewhere and something. But the main selling point was that the author lives in Birmingham, Alabama, which is, where I'm from. So I was like, oh, yeah. So I'm very excited to read this fabulous book. No, it's going to be fabulous. There's just how can it not be fabulous? Really? How? I've also got 2 Stephen King novels, Under the Dome, parts 1 and 2, and they look pretty groovy. Stephen King, of course, is a legend. Confession time. I've never actually read a whole novel by him. I read some short stories. I really like him, even though I've, never read him. But now I can read him because I have these 2 very large novels, which look very good. So I'm very excited to read those. I got a random Mercedes Lackey book, and she's sometimes good, sometimes not, but it looks like she's tackling urban fantasy in this one. Normally she's strictly fantasy, so this ought to be interesting to read. Children of the Night. Oh, it's got a blurb by Stephen King. We were just talking about that guy. Well, anyway, we'll see how that goes. I also found this, I'm pretty sure I've seen this at the thrift store before and never gotten it, but today I was in a liberal mood. I heard a noise, I don't know where it came from. I was in a liberal mood, so I picked it up and looked at it, and it's an anthology of science fiction stories, and it's got some cool names in here, like Jane Yolen, Ursula K. Le Guin, however you pronounce her name, Pat Murphy, William Butler Yeats, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Alistair Reed, some people I've never heard of. It's not going to be amazing, but anthologies really never are super duper amazing. They're just, got some really good stuff in there and some really lame stuff, and every once in a while you read one that's good all the way through, but very rarely, so I'm not expecting this to be groundbreaking, and that's okay. I also picked up, because they happened to be there, Princess Diaries, and that's not what I meant to pick up. Princess Diaries and Princess in the Spotlight, which of course are by Meg Cabot, and of course inspired the very, very popular movies of Princess Diaries movies, starring, of course, Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews. These are very, very different from the movie, I have no doubt, and honestly, never been a huge Meg Cabot fan. I read a couple of her stuffs, and it was just kind of like, man, it's kind of sparkly, I don't really know if I really appreciate this. But, since it's Princess Diaries, I figure, as a girl, I should probably read it, and prove that I am, in fact, a girl. And so I will read these, and probably will think they're okay, but not super awesome, and we'll move on in life, and it'll be grand. And of course, you can't go thrift shopping without picking up a classic, and I found Roughing It by Mark Twain, which is kind of like a memoir of his actual life, of him doing some random stuff out, you know, in the Wild West, and, you know, whatever. I'm honestly not a huge fan of Mark Twain's literature. It's kind of boring in my opinion, but he's a very witty and interesting fellow. And so, since this isn't really a story, excuse me, it's like basically just him. Pretty excited. And last but not least, we have some Artemis Fowl. Artemis Fowl is, of course, fantastic, phenomenal. Everyone should read Artemis Fowl. I honestly couldn't remember if I owned this one or not. Pretty sure I don't own this one. I actually haven't checked yet, even though I started making this video. So yeah, those are my latest additions to my book library, my personal library. Getting close to owning 1,000 books. Boom! One day I look forward to having my own house, which is super cool, and have all these books everywhere. It's gonna be beautiful. People are gonna come in and be like, oh my gosh, you're such a weirdo, and I'm gonna befriend the neighbors' kids who are gonna be sad because they can't get to the library and they can't go book shopping, but then they'll come to my house and be like, oh my gosh, books, and just sit in the chair and read and have some hot cocoa or some lemonade, depending on the weather, and we'll just have a grand old time, and it'll be beautiful. Yes, that's my plan for the future. That's what I aspire to be. Deal with it. Don't eat the rice. Have some coffee instead. I did, which is probably why I'm so hyperactive right now. As always, all my love to you guys. Oh, Palmer's love too. He's so cute. So cute. I'll see you guys later. Bye.